Welcome to the Dusk podcast. My name is Zamira. I'm a psychic, energy worker, and a mystic here to share my stories, my channelings, and research with you in regards to spiritual topics. Today, I wanted to talk about synchronicity. I want to let in some light. Since the past topics I was focusing on were a little bit on the darker side, and I just want to explain myself here a little bit. The reason for that is because I explained it a little bit more in my psychic attack episode. But the reason for that is because for the longest time, I thought I couldn't acknowledge any other energy besides the light. And I noticed that it made me very, very ashamed to just note that the darkness existed, that there were darker and lower energies out there that do take advantage of the naivete that a lot of us light workers do have. And so it really took me being okay to kind of delve into that darker realm and understand better on what was going on in order to protect myself. And since then, my psychic attacks are gone. And I thought I would never be able to say that. I didn't realize that it was something that was holding me back on my path for so long. Like, I feel like that's the reason why it took me so long to even post this podcast or to even start it, was because I was too scared to acknowledge the dark and work on my power and being able to basically fuck that bitch in the ass and be like, peace out, you can't control me. So welcome to Dusk. Today we're talking about synchronicity to let some light in. So in this pod, I'll go into detail about what synchronicity is and how it plays out in our lives, how to attract it more to you, and how to utilize it as a guiding post on your path. So stick until the end to really get all of the goodness that this podcast has to offer. And I want to just start off with saying thank you so much for being here, and I really hope you enjoy. I want to start off with the definition. I have some notes here. The definition of synchronicity from Google is the simultaneous occurrence of events which appear significantly related but have no discernible causal connection. So a lot of us recognize synchronicity popping up in terms of angel numbers or speaking about a certain question or incidents, something that you are curious about, and the universe somehow sends you exactly the answer that you've been looking for. Perhaps maybe you're looking for signs. You ask the world, give me a sign if I'm supposed to be doing blank, and then you'll see a sign passing on the road as you're driving saying, yes, it's time, or something that you can't help but to feel like has a meaningful connection to what you were asking for, okay? And whenever I was researching more about synchronicity, obviously a lot of us like to chalk it up to being coincidence. But what really makes synchronicity a synchronicity is the meaning that you put to it, right? Meaning is such a powerful force in our life. It creates our beliefs and in turn creates our inner world, which then creates our outer world, which is why there's this whole component to synchronicity that has a lot to do with manifestation and law of attraction. But I've channeled, and as I've researched, that synchronicity is not just an output from manifestation. It's also a language of the universe. Symbols and synchronicities are the language of the universe. It's how the universe, your higher self, how God speaks to you. And I'd love to dive into my own stories about what that is and some tips and tricks on how I've made synchronicity work for me in ways that feel so helpful. One way that you can have synchronicity work for you in magical ways is to establish symbols with your spiritual team. And this can be as easy as going to your spiritual team and being like, hey guides, if this is meant for me, then can you please send me a sign that looks like blank? So in my instance, what I did is I took a number. My number that helps me whip my butt into shape and to get to work is 411. So whenever I am supposed to be working on my psychic biz or content creation for this, my passions, my purpose, they'll send me 411. And they'll also send me notice that I need some rest by withdrawing the appearance of the number so often. So at times, they will tell me it's crunch time. They'll send me 411 here and there and there. The thing about synchronicity is that you know it's a synchronicity whenever it happens more than twice, for sure. And that's kind of what I'll wait for, is does this symbol, does this number occur more than twice? If it is, it's absolutely a sign. I really find that tip very, very helpful, especially for some of us spiritual babes, especially in the beginning, where we see everything as a sign, as a synchronicity. This can be super, super overwhelming. If you're seeing everything as something that's meaningful and a synchronicity, it can overwhelm the human brain a bit. And so it's really, really important that you discern whether or not something has meaning for you, because something that's kind of derailed my path is believing that certain things were synchronicities that maybe weren't, or perhaps it was an occurrence sent by entities or people or energies that just do not want you to thrive. So it's really important to kind of, one, make sure you're taking care of yourself energetically. If you need help with that, I have a guide on my website that once you, it's a pop-up on the very front. Yes, girl, it's a pop-up. It's a pop-up. Let's go. Once you enter your email address, you'll be able to receive the guide on how I've been able to cleanse my energy. It's very, very, very helpful for mystics who are practicing on themselves. And then if you want to take that a layer further, my podcast on psychic attack also really, really helps with keeping your energy clean. So that way, these negative synchronicities don't come as often. So that's also why I find it very, very important for you to kind of wait until 2 times or more where a symbol will pop up, because usually those are divine led in my experience. So I want to talk about angel numbers really quick on how you're able to navigate that a little bit more. And just sort of how I feel about it, okay? This is something that has kind of regurgitated itself a lot. So nowadays, if you see an angel number like reoccurring, you'll go onto websites and it'll kind of say like super general and vague things. What I like to do to bring potency to the message and really create a meaningful connection to the number combinations is to, one, look at the numerology. And this even is a little bit difficult to find on like the first page of Google, because it'll pick up that you're trying to look for an angel number rather than the soul numerology. But yeah, try your best to find better resources to learn about numerology. So I would really focus on books, or perhaps even other mystics who can teach you better about distinguishing in between each one, because we're at this point. This is a general message for everything like New Agey or occultish or whatever. We're at this point where things are really converging. things are getting so regurgitated over and over again that it's sort of losing meaning. And so that's why I think it's very important in general to look for different resources besides the first page of Google. This is why I really implore you to go to certain practitioners, people who you trust, and that are good at this stuff. Maybe even podcasts. This is the reason why I'm making this podcast. Because personally, I haven't found a lot of like metaphysical, spiritual podcasts that are rich enough. There are some out there, though, that I really love. Something that I really want to bring to the spiritual community is depth. And this is an issue that I've seen with angel numbers in general, is that they've been kind of watered down into just like, oh, your angels are with you. It means something good is going to happen. So I really implore you to make your own decision on what each of these number combinations mean, or even look into the numerology. But I also want to share a bit of like what mine mean. And you'll notice that some of them are very similar to the web descriptions of what these numbers mean, and some of them are not. So 1111 for me is a new gateway. It's a new portal. It's a new opportunity. It's an opportunity that aligns with divine, and it's really the beginning stages. It's a beginning stage of a new path. So for me, it represents kind of this little baby phase of like, oh, there's possibility. There's something new coming into being. There's an opportunity for deeper healing. There's an opportunity for better understanding. That's what that number means for me. And I'll usually see this a lot at the beginning of new cycles. I also noticed 1212. 1212 means you're on the right track. You're doing what you're supposed to do. Good job. It's a good, like, yay for you from the universe. 1, 2, 3, 4 means patience. Be patient because there's a multi-step process in front of you, where everything will build upon each other and eventually pay off. Your rewards will come, but it'll require a lot of patience and a lot of working on everything. 555 means change is needed, realignment is needed. You need to find what it can be in terms of mental energy, emotional energy, physical energy, spiritual energy, whatever it is, something needs to be shifted. And usually this number, when it pops up, I know exactly what it's talking about, because it could be something that I've been pondering on for a while. It could be something that has caused me a lot of confusion. That number will pop up to give me clarity that I need to be taking the higher road and I need to make a shift in order to align with divine. 666 for me means that you're definitely a little bit too off path. I know people have usually a really positive feeling with that number. For me, it's not. And that's not because it's good or bad. It's not because I'm right or wrong. It's just the personal meaning I've given with the number. For me, 666 is very similar to 555, but it's like after you've already kind of committed to taking a lower route. It's like, okay, girl, like realignment is needed, or it signifies the need to balance things a lot better. So perhaps you're doing the right things, but you need to realign and reprioritize where your energies are going. 777, I think of slots, I think of lucky sevens. For me, this means I'm on the highest path and I'm literally in flow with the universe, and that I'm kind of like on a divine flow, which is really, really fun. I love getting that confirmation. It really means like you're aligned and also like magical right now, which I don't get whenever I'm like not aligned. Whenever I'm not aligned, I'll notice the numbers like 333 or 444 more. But whenever I am aligned, I'll notice 1111 more, 777 more. I'll recognize these higher numbers, or 1212 even. 999 for me is, 888, obviously abundance. This, I try not to get too attached to this number though. Recently, it's been popping up for me, and I'm like, I don't understand why, because I literally just quit my job. But yeah, it'll pop up, and yeah, I try not to get too attached to it because it represents abundance, financial abundance. And I'm still trying to like tune in how I feel about it. Because everywhere you'll read, it talks about financial abundance, but I'm really trying to figure out like, is that how I feel with this number? Is this what happens with this number? Still trying to feel it out. And then 999. I love this number. It means an end of a cycle. It means completion of a cycle. And it means that karma is either about to happen or it's clicked out of your life. You've already completed something. I see this number as a job well done. You've gone through the hard stuff, or you're about to be confronted with the hard stuff that needs to be cleared out of your life. It is a clean slate for me. That's my piece on angel numbers, but I also want to talk about symbols, how symbols are a really huge core component to synchronicity as well. For me, I find a lot of meaning in bugs, perhaps maybe because I'm in the South US and there's bugs fucking everywhere. But yeah, I want to tell some stories about recently just kind of this full circle moment I had from the very beginning of my spiritual path, like my spiritual awakening. My spiritual path happened way earlier, but my awakening happened later. But I want to talk about that to now, where I've completed a huge cycle in my life and now I'm kind of leaping into another unknown. Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about that. So early in my spiritual awakening, I remember one day on a work break, I was really listening to my music, and I just had this like spiritual awakening moment like days prior where I remembered who I was again, and remembered that I can forge and create a reality of my choosing, and that I was assisted by the universe. I just had to trust it. It was very much the beginning light, like Pollyanna phase, where you're so open and you feel your guides around you all the time. For me, I was very connected to angels back then. And yeah, I was just super open. While I was listening to music at that moment in time, I noticed that there was a beetle on the ground, and the beetle was walking in sync to my music, and I had my music in my like earbuds, so there's no way he would have heard it, right? But for some reason, something told me like, you're on a new path. You're embracing the path you're meant to be on. And for some reason, I was fascinated with that one beetle. It was a black beetle. It looked like a scarab from Egypt. And it's really, something really clicked in me that was my symbol for new cycles beginning, for magic coming into my life. So for a while, I was seeing beetles in that moment of time. And then for a while, they went away. I started seeing spiders after like deep into that cycle. And I didn't see them as a threat at first. They were really chill with me. They would really hang out with me. They would crawl on me and I would not freak out. Of course, these were like smaller spiders. They weren't like huge fucking scary, hairy things. But I noticed that they were so comfortable with me. It was kind of like a weird thing. And so it was like, okay, this represents something, but I don't know what it represents yet. Later, I had 2 or 3 occurrences with spiders that tended to not be so positive. And one of them involved me having spiders pop up in my dream. Trigger warning, this is a trigger warning for arachnophobia. Just letting you know. I had a dream that my scalp was completely shaved, and there were a bunch of spiders, like baby spiders, crawling all over my head. Ooh, disgusting. I looked into the meaning of the dreams and sort of had this interpretation come up for me that it had something to do with my mother line, about there being corruption in my mother line and how it was affecting me and energetically still. And that there were possibly whispers behind my back, or black magic being done to me, which has happened, unfortunately, in my experience. Also probably a testament to why I'm so paranoid about negative energy and want to protect myself from it. So that meaning kind of came to me, and I started to see the spider as like not really a positive symbol for me, which again, like you can create your own symbol of what, you know, or your own meaning of what spiders mean for you. It can be a positive thing, but for me, it just turned out to not be a positive thing. I thought it was a positive thing, but I realized it wasn't. And this kind of it became more concrete whenever I was getting a group healing with someone. And during the healing, I saw the spiders appear again at the top of my head. Whenever people are doing healings on me, I kind of like snoop with my clairvoyance to see like what's going on, like what are they doing. I saw the spiders pop up in my clairvoyance. And then afterwards, the healer said that they saw spiders popping up as a parasite, and that they were sucking energy from us because they were talking about the group as a whole, not just me, but I'm pretty sure that I had like that something was going on with me in regards to spiders because of the meaning I already placed on them. It was at that moment that I realized this is like, those are two pretty big synchronicities trying to tell me like what is going on with my energetic state in regards to the mother. It correlated very greatly to things I was experiencing in my physical life, that I knew my guides were trying to protect me from or help me find a way out. And yeah, it was just a very like synchronistic thing where it's like, oh fuck, I have to work on this. Don't worry, my cat came in if you see the door creaking or anything, for people who are seeing this on video. After I completed a cycle that had a lot to do with closing off the vampirism coming from my mother line, guess what I fucking saw in the park? I was going on a walk with me love at a trail, and on the trail we saw the hugest fucking spider. It was a big, bad, ugly spider, probably like that big, with a big butt and some big legs. She was hairy, okay? She was laying in the middle of the park, wasn't moving. What do I see? A beetle. I see a smaller looking beetle, pretty big though, big ass beetle grabbing the spider and dragging it down to the grass. Like that spider was dead. It was not fighting back. It was gone. And this beetle was taking it back to what I think was its family to eat the fucking spider. And for me, in that moment, it clicked. I was like, I did it. I'm forging a new path, and I completed that energy. It's gone. Thank fucking God. And I knew it energetically that was the case whenever I made certain decisions to bring about this new cycle. But seeing it play out in nature, it just felt like a sign from the divine, like, you're good, you did it. You don't have to worry about this anymore. So that's pretty wild. Those are some of my stories around synchronicity. So yeah, those are a couple of really strong synchronistic ways that I allow numbers and symbols to appear in my life. And of course, there's various other things, like it reminds me of that scene in that one movie with Salma Hayek. It's like a romance movie, and she's like, I need to look for a sign, and then on a big billboard it says something, and she's like, okay, I know what to do. Totally forgot that movie. I should watch it again. Is it When Fools Rush In? Probably. I don't know. It's a great movie. So yeah, there are other occurrences that happen synchronistically, like whenever I'm not supposed to be on like energy devices or like electronic devices. If I'm like on them for too long, my guides will literally give me tech difficulties. Like my social media will stop working or my TV will stop working. And like even if it comes back on within like being able to turn it on or turn it back off, I know my guides are like, okay girl, get the fuck off the computer or the phone or blah blah blah, whatever. Sometimes we bring about synchronicity through the law of attraction. You know, the guides, the universe is looking at everything that you're doing, and they just know what you need in that moment of time. And so they'll send you people, places, things where you're at the right place at the right time, and things like work for you. You know, divine plan becomes obvious in those moments of time. There was one particular place where this was at a moment in my life where I didn't have a car. And the only way I could get to somewhere very, very important for an important tax document for school was 2 hours away at that moment in time. So my boyfriend was really sweet. There was a deadline coming up that I needed that tax document immediately, or I was going to be ineligible to attend that semester for school. And I would have to wait a whole other year to make sure that the process goes through. And I didn't know about this document until I went through this process. Like sometimes they don't give you the whole outline of everything you need to do, especially depending on your unique situation. So my boyfriend was really sweet and offered to drive me to this tax office in this other city. And whenever I went, they, you know how the IRS is, they just make a big stink for anything. But the person at the counter made a big stink and was like, sorry, you can't retrieve this document. Like, you're not, like, you need to make an appointment a day in advance. See if you can make an appointment with the number on the door. And so I did that. And the lady I'm talking to make the appointment is like in a totally different city, totally different state, even. Like, they're so detached with that office that I knew it was going to be a bust. And I called her. She said that there was nothing that she could do. The best that I could do was to talk to the office I was already at. But the guy was I went to them twice and they said that they couldn't do anything for me. Pretty much just gray rocked me at some point. So I broke down. After that call with that lady, I broke down and I said, guides, like, you need to get somebody out here. I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know what to do. I just kept on repeating, somebody needs to come out. Somebody needs to help me. Somebody needs to. And literally within seconds, a lady that worked with the tax office came out and said, hey, what's going on? Like, why are you crying? What's going on? And I told her my situation, and she basically told me to keep my tears, go into the office, tell them that you need this tax document for school or else you're going to be kicked out. And lo and behold, it worked. So sometimes we attract these situations based on needs on our path. I've mentioned that story before, but it was one of those powerful moments where it was like, I know I was talking to my guides in that moment in time, and I know they sent somebody to help me on my path. Whew, I can get teary-eyed because it's just like, whew. Here's a little segment on how society prevents synchronicity. And to start with the first thing, it's coincidence. We're brainwashed into thinking that everything is just meaningless coincidence, that random things will just happen randomly. It doesn't matter what's going on. We're shown confirmation bias, which absolutely exists, but there are some points in time where like things are a bit uncanny, right? At the end of the day, synchronicity is really just about the meaning that you give to it. So in a way, it does show up as confirmation bias. It does, but it really depends on the meaning that you give it in order for it to guide you on your path. This is over pragmatism. It's seeing is believing, whereas the opposite is true. Believing is truly seeing. And this is yet another synchronistic story, but my cat recently passed away, and it was an awful experience. So I was doing some grieving over that, and I went to one of my favorite childhood video games that I have yet to complete it. It was Kingdom Hearts 3. And at the end, Sora, the main protagonist, was something really awful happened, and he died, and he went to a realm to piece himself back together and to, in a way, toy with the timelines that were available so he could do it right this time. Timeline where he died, something absolutely dire was happening, and he wasn't believing that he would be taken care of. He wasn't believing in the light. He wasn't believing that there was any way that could get out of the situation. The second chance that he was given, he decided to trust and have faith in the light, even though there was some spooky stuff happening that would indicate there was no way that the light was going to win. And just with the mere sense of faith, the timelines shifted. The light was able to come in and assist him with his path. Otherwise, he would have died without that faith. That was like a huge download that I think I needed at that point in time, because for some years, I've kind of shat all over my dreams. For the longest time, I was doing all that I could to make something happen, and I didn't trust that the divine would meet me halfway, and that they would help me on my path. And there was just all this evidence that things were not going to work out, and all this evidence that I didn't deserve something, or that I just wasn't going to be able to make magic happen. And so I eventually believed that it just wasn't meant for me until I would quit doing something and it would just keep coming back to me and haunt me in my dreams. And so that's basically why I'm on this path right now, because I know if I stop, it'll haunt me. Like, I can't stop thinking about it, This was a really good lesson to start off this new cycle, where my guides are telling me, like, you need to have faith. You need to get back in touch with your faith and know that we'll be there for you, but we can't come in unless you have the faith. If you don't keep the faith and hold the vision, even if everything in your outside reality says that it's not going to happen, then it won't. You need to have the faith. There's that one quote that's like, whether you can do it or not, it's up to you. If you think you can't do it, you can't. If you think you can, you can. I know that was sort of like a reteaching. It's something, we have these moments, right, where it's like, oh, we know, but sometimes we need little reminders to keep up the faith sometimes. And then something synchronistic happened the next day, where I went to work with that story in my mind. And then my boss brought up the same story, but in their own way, seeing the story on Kingdom Hearts, which you'll notice I think is the reason why I'm doing this work. I feel like I was brainwashed to doing this work because of Kingdom Hearts. Look, he's a light worker. He's fighting off demons and fucking the darkness. I feel so resonant with that. And yeah, like, I feel like Kingdom Hearts is life. And I just saw 411, so that's cute. That's also a cute confirmation. But yeah, if I had just seen that moment in the video game, it would be easy to be like, no, this isn't real. Like, maybe I was just making it up, or maybe I just needed something to hold on to. But after that same narrative came back up the next day, it concreted it for me. It was like, yep, I was meant to see that. I was meant to make that message out of it. And that was a moment for me. The same story is true in regards to how you are able to experience your synchronicities. You have to have this faith and openness to the light that they're able to communicate with you in the first place in order to experience it. If you keep saying, oh, it's not real, or trying to debunk it, or not being open to it, then it won't be real for you. And you're not going to open yourself up to the language of the universe. Other things that prevent synchronicity is the good old 9-to-5 matrix society. This basically really deters you from being spontaneous. It deters you from working through desire in your life, and it deters you from doing what you want to do in your life. When you're operating from spontaneity and from desire and from alignment in your life, that is whenever this juicy divine flow comes to you and where your guides are speaking to you and things are synchronistic. So I'm not trying to demonize 9-to-5s here. This is actually more particularly for people who are working at places they don't align with. Like maybe you're there just for the paycheck, no other reason. That is going to affect your divine flow. It's going to, because you are telling the universe that you're not worth putting your time in somewhere that enriches you. And so what that does is it puts you in a whole different system, the matrix system, that totally really does its best to block out light. So really make sure, this goes into my next point with what else cuts off your flow to synchronicity, which is dimming your light, letting the negative programming of the matrix program totally take over and cut off divine light and divine flow. So this is letting the matrix system conquer your belief system in terms of anything, abundance, self-worth, or whatever. If we are able to see negative programming, the easiest way you can kind of cut off negative programming is to really be strict with what you're consuming digitally. So number one, social media feeds are not good because it's kind of teaching you to always be chasing after something novel and new. And obviously there's way other beliefs embedded into the feed that are just constantly being pumped into your system. And then movies, TV, stuff like that will also inject certain distorted codes into your belief system if you're not able to catch it and be aware of it and kind of diminish it. So you really want to be careful with what you're watching. This kind of reminds me of Game of Thrones. Okay, so this is a little story of why I fucking hate Game of Thrones. I fucking hate it. I'm sorry. I'm a hater. And why I love Outlander, even though they're both shows have something awful happening. Both of them have awful things that happen. But for me, I really like Outlander because even though there's a bunch of shitty shit happening, obviously, with a bunch of programs that do not help, there's still a sense of sweetness and Wattpaddedness within it that ooh, I like this, this makes me have fun. I'm having fun watching it, even though right now it's a little dark and heavy. But yeah, I like it for that reason. Whereas with Game of Thrones, bro, it's all doom and gloom. Nothing fun is happening. It fucking sucks. Nothing is happening that's positive. There's no sweetness. There's just this program in it that everything is awful, basically. There is nothing good that can happen. And I can't deal with it because that's too fucking scary for me, And so every time I watch it, it just injects me with such anxiety and I can't handle it. I can't digest it. I just want to vomit after watching it. Yeah, that sort of stuff will kind of filter your lens a little bit, and it'll stop from that divine flow of magic coming in. That's kind of how society prevents you from embracing synchronicity. It was a message that I got from my guides while doing this podcast or while outlining everything was that synchronicity was just a mechanism of communication and guidance. That is what it was. They showed me a spiral and then a spiral on a shell, showing you the path of your ups and downs, and that it was just the mechanism of the universe. Like, that's just how it works. When you're in the flow, when you're in the spiral, there will be guideposts sometimes to assist you in moving towards that path. They told me it's not fate. Synchronicities do not have much to do with fate. It's just merely a communication mechanism, which I thought was a beautiful thing. How to attract synchronicity. Finally, we're on the how-to portion of the podcast. If you stood up with me. Before we get into it, I want to say thank you so much for listening. If you have listened this far, because I know I talked a lot about my own stories, let me know if you liked those at all. If you want more story-based stuff, or do you want more information. I am a psychic, so if you're interested in booking a reading with me, head to my website, heyurpsychic.com. That's heyurpsychic.com. Go ahead and book with me, and I'm really excited to work with you. You can check all my reviews there. But yeah, thank you. Let's continue on. So we've talked about a couple of things. I'm just going to kind of recap what can attract synchronicity to your way. And one of those things is inspired spontaneity and following your instincts. Just following your instincts, all right? Not overthinking things, doing things out of pleasure, out of desire, out of just living your quirky, fun life, just sort of doing that. That is going to lead you on a path of happenings that are meant for you, that you get attracted to, and that overall kind of point you in the directions you need to go in. Alignment in your life is another super huge tip that will really generate this divine flow of synchronicity headed towards you. When you are in alignment, that is going to be the juiciest way to get the universe to talk to you. And this is what alignment means. It means that your values and how you are living your life are both intertwined. They are both very corresponding to each other. So if you have a value and belief system that you are for sure, what is right and wrong to you, you have a moral system, and your life reflects that, that's how you know you're in alignment. All right. So that's why I said before, if you're working a 9 to 5 you don't care for, you're not in alignment with your value system. So you're going to want to be in alignment to generate that flow to you. You can attract synchronicity by making agreements on symbols and numbers and signs, or you can even just talk to your guides. Just say, guides, I need a sign right now. Can you please let me know that I'm on the right track? Ask them. They will get back to you, okay? Ask them, let go of the expectation. They will get back to you. Be open to the signs, however they pop up to you. Be open with the fact that you can be in synchronicity with the universe and that the universe can speak to you. Once you're open to that possibility, then that's where you'll start to notice them. Be sure to note your synchronicities, especially if they have happened 2 or more times. I hope that was a yummy podcast for you all, and that synchronicity makes a little bit more sense, and maybe even other things that I talked about with the angel numbers and all of these other things that I talked about revolving around synchronicity makes sense to you. Now go and build your own language with the universe. Please go ahead and rate and subscribe to this podcast to help it grow as much as it can. and drop a comment, leave a like, support me in all of these free ways if you feel called to. And if you are also feeling the nudge, go ahead and book a psychic reading with me. I'd love to work with you on my website. Once again, heyurpsychic.com with the your as a you are. heyurpsychic.com. Would love to speak with you all more. And thank you so much for giving me your time and your energy and for being able to sit through all this. I hope it was fun for you. Thank you so much. Mwah! Have a great day.